Yes, hello, my name is Johnson Terana. As you can see, I'm a researcher in education, and I want to explain or to share to my colleagues who are researchers and those who are educators on how to integrate the constructivism and the social constructivism theories in research and education. As I have colleagues who are not getting clearly the English, those who are undertaking research in Kinyarwanda, I will also share my thoughts in Kinyarwanda, so that those who are undertaking the research in the field of Kinyarwanda language, so that they can understand clearly what my presentation is all about. So I'm an educationist, specifically in the field of science education. Allow me to first give an overview on constructivism. The constructivism is a theory which was developed by one of the great psychologists called Piaget, and this was developed in the 1970s. In constructivism, the Jean Piaget believes that the knowledge is constructed by individual, so it is basing on specifically on cognitive development. So in this case, I'm going to focus on cognitive domain. It has also other domains like affective domain and psychomotor, but when it comes to a process of teaching and learning in the classroom or in other experience, I will focus on cognitive development. So this constructivism of Jean-Pierre believes that is an individual understanding when is articulated to the experience. But later on, it was compensated by another theory which was developed by Vygotsky, of which he called social constructivism theory. And in social constructivism theory, the Vygotsky believed that the knowledge is created through social interaction. So it means that you need to interact with other, either a material or another individual, to facilitate you create the knowledge. Ngarutse ku bantu barimo gukora ubushakashatsi mu Kinyarwanda, ariko ubushakashatsi bwabo burebana n'uburyo bw'amashuri, mu ishuri mu kuzamura ireme ry'ubumenyi. Hari amateori abiri, teori ya constructivism ariyo teori ijyanye n'uko ubumenyi buremwa n'umuntu ku giti cye ko abyumva, ahuye n'ikibazo runaka, ahuye n'ubumenyi runaka atarasanzwe azi, bukamufasha kuba yakora ubwo bumenyi, yaburema ariko ari wenyine. Ni teori rero ya Jean Piaget yo mu 1970. Noneho mu 1978 biza kugaragara ko iyi teori ireba umuntu ku giti cye, ariko wa muntu kubera ko ahura n'ibintu byinshi bitandukanye, bwa bumenyi bushobora no kuremwa ku bantu, hagati y'abantu, cyangwa se wa muntu hari ibintu ahuye nabyo, byaba ibikoresho runaka bishobora kumufasha kurema ubumenyi. Ubwo rero reka ngaruke mu ishuri muri mu buryo bw'ishuri cyangwa se classroom. Ni ukuvuga ngo umunyeshuri ashobora kuba ari wenyine mu ishuri, ubwo Jean Piaget we niko yabyumvaga, cyangwa se ashobora kuba agenda wenyine akagira ibintu ahura nabyo, ariko akagira ubumenyi runaka ashobora kurema. Ariko bizavuga ko ubwo bumenyi aburema ku giti cye akabyumva, ariko noneho bikenera yuko hari aho agera akabona ko adashoboye, bikenera ko afashwa n'abandi bantu. Aho niho social constructivism iziramo. Let us look at the different aspects in the next step of the learning theories. The aspect of constructivism theory of Jean Piaget of the 1970s, it is based on cognitive development. And one of the aspects is acquisition of knowledge. So what happens in the acquisition of knowledge? In the acquisition of knowledge, the process of gaining or absorbing and integrating new information or skills or understanding through various methods. Acquisition of knowledge, that is when you are articulated to the new information. Allow me to give an example, a tangible example on acquisition of knowledge. For example, you are going to teach how to eat meat, when to eat meat, or the source of meat. You may take an example that one of the source of meat that people eat is they come from beef, that is the cow, chicken meat, goat meat. But also, you may reach in a certain context where you will find that even a dog is eaten in some context. But in the context of Rwanda, dog is not eaten. That one will constitute as a new information. So now you acquire this knowledge, how to eat a dog. You already know how to eat goat. You already know how to eat meat, chicken. But now how to eat a dog or how to eat snake. In different contexts, for example, in Rwanda context, we don't eat snake or we don't eat dog. But in the context of other countries, it is the best meal. So now the knowledge of eating the snake or the knowledge of eating the dog, it is a new information in a certain context. So in that case, you acquire the knowledge or the skills or you understand through different contexts on how to eat a dog or the snake. So it will be new information which will be gained. Bivuze iki rero muri acquisition of knowledge? Bivuze ngo hari uburyo bwo kugira ubumenyi bushyashya utari usanzwe wari ufite cyangwa se wari usanzwe uzi. Wari usanzwe uzi yuko urugero wari usanzwe uzi ko abantu barya inyama, ni urugero dore ko wenda nzikunda yego, ariko muri izo nyama ubwoko wari uzi buribwa mu gihugu cyacu ni inka, ni inkoko, ni ihene, ariko ntiwari uzi ko imbwa nayo ishobora kuribwa cyangwa inzoka. Mu muco w'ahandi iraribwa, mu muco wacu mu Rwanda ntabwo izo nyamaswa ziribwa. Ayo ni amakuru mashyashya umenye utari usanzwe uzi, ndetse bishobora no kuzagutera kwibaza ngo ziribwa gute, nawe ukazatangira kuzirya. So urumva ko ubwo bumenyi Jean Piaget yavugaga ni acquisition of knowledge, the new information. Let us go to the second aspect in cognitive development of Jean Piaget constructivism, is the assimilation of knowledge. In assimilation of knowledge, it is a cognitive process where you can integrate the new information in your existing mental framework. In this existing mental framework, Piaget called it schema, by fitting it into what you already know. Wamaze kugira ya makuru mashyashya, ugiye kuyagumisha mu bwonko, kugira ngo kuyabanisha nayo wari usanzwe uzi. Wari usanzwe ko abantu barya inyama z'ihene, ariko noneho hajeho n'izimbwa ko nazo ziribwa. Ayo makuru mashyashya agiye kubana nayo wari usanzwe uzi. Icyo nicyo twita assimilation of knowledge. You already know that eating meat, goat meat, you will have that information, but you are going to fit together with the information of you already know of eating goat meat and eating beef with the snake, with the meat of snake. It is a new information that is going to fit together with what you already know. Now, to apply this in the classroom means that there are some of the theories, some of the practices we do in the classroom, and we want to make the student understand it better, or the new information. The students know how to extract chemicals from the substance, theoretically. But the student doesn't know how to fix an apparatus. So that skill of fixing an apparatus is going to fit together with what already know in the theory. So if you are a researcher, you are bringing a new information to the student to make the student understand better a certain concept in your field. So it means that you want to make the student understand. So when you bring that new information, it is going to fit from what already known. So it means the student is not an empty vessel. Jean Piaget believed that the student have information in the mind, is not an empty. When you are coming to bring a new information to him or her, those information are going to fit together in the brain with the one which is already known. So that's what he called the mental framework. Now the third aspect is accommodation of knowledge. Process of changing or creating new mental framework or schema to fit the new information or experience that don't align with existing one. What does this mean? It means that in the accommodation, you create a new room for new information. But this new information, this room for new information, it fits together with what already known. In the same brain, that is the mental process. So it means that there is a room for different experience that a student was knowing how to cram, is used to cram the information. But now, if it's used to cram the information, you have brought the material to help the student understand the concept. So in this case, he's going to create a new schema, a new room, where those skills of operating the material to make him or her understand better the concept is going to be created. So in that case, the knowledge is created. So back to different, let me go back to my first experience of example of eating meat, or how to eat meat, or the source of meat. So in a different contexts, of course, in this constructivism, the knowledge is constructed in a different contexts. It means that in the context of Rwanda, there are some meat we don't eat. Some animals, as I have said, dog and snake. But in other contexts of different countries or regions, there are some information that the student or somebody, not only the student or any other person, may know, may get, may experience. In such a context, they eat snake. But in the context of ours in Rwanda, we don't eat snake. So if I get that information, the brain is going to create a new mental framework for how to eat the snake, how to eat the dog. And it is in this context you find that people start adopting the way of eating those snakes or eating those dogs. So meaning that there was the new information they acquired of how to eat the snake. Is it sweet, or is it sour, is it what? That information was assimilated, and now it is accommodated in the schema. So it has created the room in the brain. Now it is already a skill which was developed. So, and it is even practiced. And this is mental process. So it is a mental process. That is the mental processing. And in this mental processing takes place in the brain. And this mental process or the mental framework, it is what Jean-Pierre called schema. Let me give another example in the classroom practice. Let's say we already know how to teach science is very abstract and not so easy to make the student understand most of the concepts. For example, like moving electrons, how electrons move in the shell. You cannot understand how electron moves in the shell, but you already have information that electrons can move in a circular orbit. So it is an experience you know from the information. But in a real practice, you don't understand, or a student or a learner is not understanding on how these actions of movements takes place. When you bring a new apparatus or a new material like a laptop to make the student move, make the student observe, manipulate, and see how the animation takes place. Oh, there will be a new information created in the mind of the student, and of which you will not forget. And when you ask a question about how the movement of these electrons are moving, the student will recall from the mental framework because he observed an experience and he was comparing with what he had or she had before with passive reading or just observation. So in the new practice, that may make the student understand better. For if you are a researcher in the field of education, I think this constructivism theory is very important to understand these three aspects of cognitive development. Not only these aspects of cognitive development, but also psychomotor drive domain. That is what the student is thinking, after thinking, put into action. So that is hands-on. I may be in the next video, the next presentation, I will talk about the psychomotor as a part of cognitive development and even affective domain. So, but if this new information or experience that does not align with the existing one, it creates its own room so that to compensate or to fill the information that it has acquired before. But this is specifically to individual mind. So, but to make this be complete, it was complemented by social constructivism of Levi Semyonovich Vygotsky in 1978, where he believed in different aspects of that the knowledge and the reality are socially constructed through interaction with others. So it means that interaction with the others, so it means that when we say the others, they can be people, they can be different activities, they can be different materials to make the student understand better or to make any other person understand better. So he brought the issue of zone of proximal development. Now this issue of zone of proximal development, it fits where the individual, what can the person do independently and what can he do with the support of the others. So it means that here there is an environment can support somebody to create the knowledge, or the material can support to create the knowledge. There is where you are able to reach, but there is where you need the support of the other or support of the material to make you understand better a certain situation. So in this context here, Vygotsky was very relevant to compensate in the individual understanding that is not enough. You need to see where there is a support. For example, let me give an example on that point. The one relevant example is sometimes a student is articulated to the substance or to a certain learning concept. And when he is articulated to the learning concept, so it means that the student is going to be given a time where he is able to meet with other environment, with other friends, and fail to understand a certain concept. So it means in this area, on this context, the student will need a further explanation from the teacher or from the knowledgeable person to make him or her understand the concept. Let me give an example, which is a typical example from the previous examples I have been given in a different context. Mu Kinyarwanda ngarutse ku bantu, iyi social constructivism ikigamije nuko ubumenyi buremwa buri kumwe, buremwa n'abantu bari kumwe. Bari kumwe bagahuza ibitekerezo, hakabaho n'ubwo ushobora gutekereza ikintu bikageraho utakibonera igisubizo, ariko ugakenera abandi bantu kugira ngo bagufashe cya gitekerezo wagize kugera ku gisubizo nyacyo gisubiza ikibazo wari ufite. Aho rero niho bita kuri zone of proximal development, to fill the gap between what someone can do independently and what can do in the support of other people. Hari ibyo ushoboye gukora uri wenyine ukabibonera ibisubizo, ariko noneho hari ibyo udashoboye gukora uri wenyine bikenera yuko uhura n'abandi bantu kugira ngo bagufashe kubona igisubizo, cyangwa se kugira ngo bagusobanurire neza wumve inzira yo kubona cya gisubizo. Niba rero turi mu bushakashatsi, mu masomo ya siyansi, mu masomo y'indimi, mu masomo y'ubumenyi bw'isi, ese hari ikihe kibazo? Cya kibazo se twabonye dushoboye kugishakira igisubizo twenyine? Dushobora gushaka igisubizo twenyine, twaba turi muri filosofi ya Jean Piaget, individualization. Ubwo ni ukuvuga ngo uricara ukandika ugashaka igisubizo uri wenyine. Ariko se cya gisubizo uri wenyine hari aho ugera bigakenera yuko ukenera abandi bantu mu gusubiza cya kibazo wabonye. Urugero, urimo urashaka kuzamura ireme ry'imyigishirize y'isomo rya chimie, rya biology, rya chemistry, ikinyarwanda mu ishuri. Ntabwo iryo reme uzarizamura uri wenyine, uzatekereza icyo gukora, ariko numara kugitekereza hari aho bizakenera yuko hazamo abandi bantu bagufasha cya gitekerezo kukizamura ku rwego gukemura ikibazo wabonye. Aho rero niho hazira social constructivism. Ubanza gutekereza wenyine muri Jean Piaget constructivism, ugakereya igisubizo, ariko noneho ukaza gusanga yuko cya gisubizo utari bukigereho ngo gitange umuti uri wenyine, ukenera abandi bantu, ukenera ibikoresho, ukenera ubu ni ukuvuga ngo uba wavuye muri individualization ugiye muri social constructivism, muri social interaction. Noneho ukarema ubumenyi runaka bushobora gukemura ikibazo. So bivuze iki rero iyo urimo gukora ubushakashatsi mu kigo cy'ishuri? Hari abanyeshuri ubuje wenda uzazaniye metode zatuma bumva isomo neza, ariko ubwo bazaniye metode zatuma bumva isomo neza birumvikana uzakina abanyeshuri ku interactinga nabo. Hari ibyo bazaba bashoboye gukora, ntabwo mu mitwe yabo yaba ari abanyeshuri uzaniye ubumenyi bushya ari injiji. Aho banyura mu muhanda, mu nzira baza ku ishuri, abo bahura nabo, abo bose hari ubumenyi babaha. Bwa bumenyi rero bageze mu ishuri barabukoresha, ariko bakaza kugeraho badashoboye kugera ku gisubizo cy'ikibazo barimo bakora. Noneho bigakenera yuko ugira gute, bagakenera undi muntu urenzeho. Niyo mpamvu mwarimu aba ahari cyangwa wa mushakashatsi, kugira ngo noneho abashe kugira gute, kubageza kuri rwa rwego rusubiza cya kibazo. Iyo rero ni social constructivism. So noneho niba turi mu bushakashatsi rero, hari teori ibiyobora bwa bushakashatsi bwacu. Iyo teori rero niyo tugenderaho, ni nayo igaragaza icyo turimo dukora, ni nayo izadufasha gukemura bya bibazo twebwe twabonye muri society bwa bushakashatsi bwacu buje gusubiza. So allow me also to go back to the English so that those who are not understanding clearly our Kinyarwanda, so that they can also have the tangible explanation of what I'm trying to elaborate. As I have said that social constructivism, that the knowledge is constructed through social interaction, it means that you start from individual thinking. You have met a certain situation, you have observed a certain situation. It's me come to education system. You have seen that there is a certain problem in your field, let's say in the teaching process. Students are failing total chemistry in a different region, in a certain region. You select the region on a different purpose that they are failing. And maybe they don't have certain materials. You have identified there are no materials to help them understand this, some of the concepts. You start developing the answers to the problem you have identified to make the student perform better so that they can get good grades. Not only in the good grades, but also critically think how they can solve their own problems. So you have developed a material or a teaching tool, and you take this tool to the classroom to see if it is going to help them understand better. So in that case, you will make the student think how to create the tool. But the question is, there is what they are able to do themselves. For example, they can go and collect materials around the school. But when it comes to the constructing a certain material that will facilitate them to understand a concept, they fail how to fix them. That is when you will come in to support, you bridge, or you fill the gap. And that process is what we call zone of proximal development. So you as a researcher who are in academician or who are educationist, are you bridging the gap between what the student knows with what they don't know? How are you supporting them in your research to understand better the concept? Or how are you supporting them to solve the real life problems around them? So you interact with them, you interact with the material, they interact with you, they interact with the material. There is a reflection between each other, each step. So in that interaction, now you are able to find out a new thing, a new information, which is accommodated in the schema of somebody, of every individual. Even you as a researcher or a teacher, you will learn from the students and the students will learn from you. Why? You as a teacher, you learn from the students. They meet with different experience. There are some information they have acquired. There are some information they have assimilated. There are some information they have accommodated based on the different context they are living in. So you support them because you are knowledgeable than them, but also they can support you because there are other information that they knew, and then after you have to test it to see if they have understood. And in the testing, it comes to individual cognitive. Individual will give The explanation will give, the reflection will give the life experience on how have accommodated the information during social interaction. Yeah, so that is my contribution, and that is how I can explain these two theories on how they are applied in research education. And actually, I thank you very much for attending this presentation. Thank you.